Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Josie, also known as the Ex-Plant Eater on here and on Instagram. I am an ex-vegan of 14 years who has transitioned to a hyper-carnivore diet since I stopped being vegan about a year ago. I am healing from ulcerative colitis and a host of other smaller issues that I developed while I was vegan that have since mostly healed. So if you are curious about those issues or specifically about my colitis, I do have plenty of other videos outside of this one because this video is actually going to be about some struggles that I've had as time goes on, and specifically things that I have become increasingly sensitive to on this diet. And I think that it's a pretty shared experience for people that are doing an elimination or carnivore diet. You become increasingly sensitive to those inflammatory things that you might even not think of as inflammatory. So I'm going to get into all of that today. Some things are going to be more obvious than others. And I'm making this video because I'm curious if you guys have noticed the same things. And side note, just gonna go on a little tangent right now. So if you did watch my last video, it was about how Kim Kardashian has teamed up with Beyond Meat to be their taste advisor, whatever it is. After I made that video, I saw multiple people comment about how Kim Kardashian went on this keto diet to fit into Marilyn Monroe's dress. And I'm really out of the loop when it comes to things like that, so I had no idea, and I would have totally included that in my last video if I had known, because that just adds to the hypocrisy. Anyway though, I did find this interesting. So when everybody started mentioning Marilyn Monroe, I went down this rabbit hole of researching her again and like watching old clips of her and clips from her movies, and it brought up this interesting thing that I'd heard. She actually did this interview talking about her diet, and she mentioned that she used to eat for breakfast warm milk with raw eggs whipped up in the milk. And she actually used to eat a pretty animal-based diet. To wrap up this tangent, I honestly view the carnivore diet as the biggest beauty secret. It made my eyelashes longer, it made my hair grow faster, it made my hair shinier. It gave me a more hourglass figure. It literally made my boobs get a little bigger. It made my waist smaller because, again, it made my hormones become more in balance. And it made my complexion a million times better and my skin dewier or more hydrated, whatever you want to call it. So I guess this whole thing with Kim Kardashian and Beyond Meat indirectly reminded me of something pretty cool. Anyway, so back to the point of this video. I'm going to be talking about things that I've become increasingly sensitive to as time goes on this diet. So the first thing and the most obvious thing that I've become incredibly sensitive to while eating this way is alcohol. I was still having a drink every once in a while up to about 2 months ago, and I completely stopped drinking, and this wasn't something that I had to force myself to do. It was something I did very willingly. So that was how I knew it was time for me to let go of that part of my life, because I drank socially throughout the entirety of my 20s up till now. Especially when I was in my earlier 20s, I would drink socially almost every weekend with my friends. I was never like the type to go out to bars, but we would have house parties, we would just hang out, and it would include alcohol. It was just fun for me back then. So because of that, and because I never really viewed it as a problem or something that was impacting my health that negatively, I kept including it, and I was really resistant to give it up every time the thought came up for me. This really isn't good for me. I know it's not rationally, but I really don't want to give it up. It's too much fun. So anyway, I would say after about a month and a half doing carnivore and really cutting out almost all of the really inflammatory ingredients, I started noticing, because every once in a while I'd have a drink, you know, after dinner or whenever, and it started doing nothing for me when I would actually drink it. And then the next day I would feel even worse than I normally would after having a drink. So essentially, say I decided to have a few shots with like some seltzer, because again, by the time I started carnivore, I was eating really low carb. So if I ever did have a drink, I would mix shots of whatever into seltzer, usually with like lemon juice or whatever, grapefruit juice sometimes. So I would have that. It wouldn't even make me tipsy or relax me or anything. And then again, the next day when I woke up, I would feel even cruddier than I used to after I would drink. So pretty naturally, I decided I don't need to be doing this anymore. It's not doing anything for me. I know that it's not good for me. I've known that for a long time, but now I really think I can just give it up because I literally don't see a point anymore in having a drink. And again, too, like sometimes days that I'd be really tense or I was like really sore from a hard workout or whatever, I would have a drink to like loosen up my muscles and just make myself less tense. And I stopped even doing it for that reason because again, it stopped doing anything for me. It stopped even making me tipsy. It was very weird. I mean, if anything, what I would have expected is that it would have done the opposite. Like it would have had a much stronger effect when I had like a shot. But I don't know. I don't know how it works. Maybe you guys have had a similar experience and you can share them down below. So another thing that I do not include anymore in my diet is seasonings. I was including Tabasco sauce up until pretty recently, but it continually was giving me diarrhea, so I decided to cut it out. I guess as a vegan, I used to be obsessed with putting sauces on everything. And to be fair, I never really want to cover up the taste of meat, but sometimes I just crave that like acidity and the sweetness of a condiment or a sauce on something. But again, I don't know if that was because I was vegan and I was trying to cover up the taste of what I was eating, or my palate was looking for something it wasn't getting. I'm sure that was a part of it, but yeah, the lack of sauces has been, I think, one of my biggest struggles. It's not like it throws me into a colitis flare to have it again, but it does give me diarrhea and it does kind of impact my digestion a little negatively. So it's just something I can't include anymore. My body seems to have become way too sensitive to it. So the next thing that I believe I have become very sensitive to on this diet is natural flavors. Obviously anything artificial. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory, but it's still worth mentioning because I used to be able to have things like flavored seltzer and flavored coffee. And most recently, when I taste those things, like if I have a flavored seltzer or I have flavored coffee, like French vanilla coffee or whatever, even if it's organic, I will get the taste of chemicals in my mouth. That's what that natural flavoring tastes like to me. And last night I got really nauseous, and specifically it was after I had a flavored seltzer. So I think it could have been from that. Just gonna be getting plain seltzer from now on and putting like lemon juice in it or lime juice. And flavored coffee I did cut out completely over a month ago at this point, and I haven't looked back. The last thing that is also probably not gonna come as a surprise to you guys that I've become super sensitive to on this diet is coffee. I used to be able to have coffee, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but again, I used to be able to have it 3 to 4 times a day at any time of the day. Now, as time goes on with carnivore, I guess the two things have kind of happened at the same time. I become increasingly sensitive to coffee, and my sleep has been a lot better. I can lay down at night and my body, it's like I'm a lot more in tune with my circadian rhythms. So at night, my body starts to wind down and I can fall asleep like almost right away now, which was also a big change from when I was vegan. So pretty naturally, without me having to force myself, I have also reduced the amount of coffee that I've been drinking, and I've been making sure that I don't drink it too close to my bedtime now, because it does prevent me from falling asleep if I have it too close to bed now. Like, I will lay awake and feel my heart palpitating now if I have coffee too close to my bedtime. So caffeine and coffee in general are affecting me a lot more strongly than they used to. And eventually I want to get down to having just 1 cup of coffee a day in the morning. It's a little difficult for me too, because coffee is one of the ways that I consume animal fats throughout the day. And again, I know that it's kind of just a stupid excuse, but I do put either butter, ghee, or beef tallow in my coffee throughout the day, and that is one way of me getting my animal fats, and especially beef tallow I like to have an abundance of throughout the day, because it keeps my skin so hydrated. It really helps with my anxiety. I used to have a ton of anxiety that has since mostly gone away. For people watching, you're probably like, it counterbalances each other though, because the caffeine will make your anxiety worse, even if the beef tallow makes your anxiety a little better, which anybody who's saying that is totally right. And it's just something that I need to get down to having once a day, and I'm working on it. But I mean, the great thing about eating this way is that it does get you to the point where you're so in tune with your body's signals that you don't need to force yourself to start cutting out those things that are bad for you. As I covered earlier in the video, alcohol, coffee, seasonings, those were all my vices. And without having to really force myself, I've greatly either cut them out completely or reduced them. And it's resulted in a much more optimized state of health for myself. My colitis is almost completely healed. It's been in remission. You know, I haven't had another flare-up since over a year ago, and I don't take any medication. So obviously this diet has done wonders for me. But you know, I do just want to be transparent about the fact that I have had these, I would say, pretty minor struggles. I don't really struggle too much with carb cravings, but it's been more so the cravings for seasoning. The alcohol somehow, you know, because I never would have expected this of myself, but somehow I did give that up pretty easily. And even if I go out with my friends, I'm not really tempted to have a drink anymore. I think other people who do eat this way are pretty open about the fact that sometimes it does get boring and you get, I want to say it's called palate fatigue, getting sick of the same taste over and over again. And it's not so much that for me. I could eat something like beef or butter or eggs every day and I wouldn't get sick of the taste, but it's just wanting to add that little extra flavor that has been sometimes a struggle for me. I am interested to know what your experiences are. Have you become more sensitive to any of those things? Do you still consume alcohol and coffee on the carnivore diet? I mean, technically I know it's not carnivore, but if you're eating an animal-based diet, do you still include those things? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed yet and you enjoy my content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You can also follow me on Instagram to see what I eat on a daily basis, and I just post a lot more frequently on there. All right, guys, thanks again, and I will see you in the next video.